The house is quiet now. Morning light comes through the kitchen window. Dust hangs in it. Nothing moves. A refrigerator hums. Once, then again. On the stove, a burner knob is still turned. Not fully. Just enough. The air smells faintly of gas. A chair sits pulled back from the table, as if someone stood up and never came back. Years later, a cardboard box is opened in a county office. The file inside is thin, paper yellowed at the edges. A name is typed again, slowly. Somewhere else. A woman sits alone. She holds a small photograph, a child she doesn't recognize. Written on the back is a date that means nothing to her. Yet, the back door of the house is still ajar. It doesn't creak, it doesn't close. 200 yards away, the road waits. The chair stays empty. Cut to black. This case has been reviewed more than once. Police reports were written, interviews were recorded, transcripts were filed and stored. Nothing was rushed, nothing was overlooked on paper. The first question is simple. Why did he leave the house when he was only 200 yards from his front door? The second question is documented. No signs of a struggle were found. No neighbors reported hearing anything unusual. So what changed in those final minutes? The third question remains unanswered. How does a person disappear in a quiet area in open view without leaving a trace? These questions appear again and again across reports across years. Maps were drawn, search grids marked, the same roads circled in ink. The footage still exists, grainy, unsteady, time-stamped. Everything known about this case comes from what was recorded and what was not. What follows is not a theory, it is a sequence. Each detail comes from a file, a statement, or a line preserved in an archive. The answers do not arrive all at once. They never have. He woke up early that morning. Not unusually early. Just early enough. Shoes were set by the door. Laces tucked in. The soles still clean. On the kitchen counter, a pencil lay where it was dropped. The tip blunted from being pressed too hard. A sheet of paper beneath it, half-colored. The lines stayed inside the edges. A television played in the next room. Low volume. A voice speaking to no one in particular. Breakfast dishes sat in the sink. One cup, one plate, not rinsed. A library book rested on the table. The due date slip folded at the corner. A date written in ink. Unpassed. The stove burner was still lit. Small flame. Steady. His jacket was on the back of a chair. Pockets empty. Buttons fastened. Nothing in the room suggested urgency. Nothing suggested goodbye. The day had started. It simply did not continue. 8:12 a.m. He was inside the house. This is supported by the stove burner and the television still on. 8:17 a.m. The back door was open. There were no signs of damage. No marks on the frame. 8:21 a.m. A neighbor later reported seeing nothing unusual. No voices. No raised sound. 8:26 a.m. A car remained parked in the driveway. The engine was cold. The keys were not missing. 8:30 a.m. The house was quiet. There were no calls placed from the phone. No messages sent. No interruptions recorded. No forced entry. No indication of a struggle. No objects displaced. Between these times, nothing was observed. When officers reviewed the sequence, the minutes aligned. The details did not. The file was closed. Then opened again. Something in the timeline did not sit evenly. The first call was placed before noon. By early afternoon, officers were at the house. Questions were asked. Notes were taken. The stove was turned off. The television was silenced. The door was closed. Flyers were printed that night, stapled to wooden poles, tapped flat by hand. Search teams formed in the morning. Volunteers walked in lines across open fields. Boots moved through grass at the same pace. A helicopter passed overhead. Its shadow moved once across the ground, then disappeared. Roads were checked. Ditches were looked into. Backyards were entered with permission. A notebook filled quickly. Names written, numbers called, lines drawn through each one. Inside the house, a phone sat on a table. It did not ring. One detail stood out in the reports. A sighting, placed at a time that did not match the rest of the timeline. It was logged, then set aside. As the search widened, the quiet spaces grew larger. The search continued on paper. Addresses were checked. Past residences listed. Each one crossed out in order. One lead appeared more than once. It was recorded in 2 separate files. The descriptions were similar. The timing was not. A person was mentioned, not named. Place near the area around the time he vanished. No direct connection was established. No follow-up interview appears in the record. The address tied to the lead was visited months later. It was empty by then. No forwarding information remained. Calendar pages moved forward. Then again, a birthday passed. Candles stayed in a box, unlit. The lead was marked inactive. The notation was brief, no explanation followed. Other avenues were prioritized. In the case file, the reference remains, it is not expanded, it is not returned to. The house stayed quiet. The review began quietly. A folded newspaper was opened at a desk. The print was small, the notice easy to miss. A name appeared. Then another spelling of it. A birth certificate was pulled from a drawer, the paper thin, the ink faded in places. Dates were compared. They did not align cleanly. A computer screen stayed on in a dark room. Tabs opened, closed, opened again. Records overlapped in ways they had not before. Not enough to confirm anything, enough to unsettle it. A DNA kit was ordered, sealed, unmarked. No announcement was made, no one was notified. The file did not close, it shifted. If the pieces belonged together, then something else had been wrong all along. A door was closed softly. The meeting took place in a small room. No one spoke at first. Two people sat across from each other. The table between them was clear. Hands moved, stopped, moved again. A photograph was placed on the table. Then another. The images were old. The edges worn, they were studied carefully, turned slightly toward the light. A hand reached out, paused, then touched the back of another. No names were said. Objects were passed across the table. A jacket, a folded paper, something kept for years. The room filled. Chairs scraped softly. Still, no one spoke. Faces were watched for recognition. Nothing was asked. The moment held. The proceedings began months later. The courtroom was filled. Wooden benches, rows aligned. Documents were placed on the table. Hands folded beside them. Testimony was given. Questions were asked. Answers were recorded. The judge reviewed the papers in silence. The verdict was read aloud. Once, there was no response noted in the record. Afterward, the hallway was empty. Lights remained on. Doors closed one by one. The case moved forward on paper. Some matters remained unchanged. The back doors open again. Light falls across the threshold. The stove burner glows faintly, unchanged. Outside, an advocacy event moves slowly in the distance. People walking forward, organized, quiet. A family walks together on a sidewalk, steps measured, no one hurries. A still photograph appears on screen, the name printed below. No music. The image holds. Silence follows.